Hello everyone, welcome back to this video series on how to make a car in Autodesk Fusion 360. Now before we do that, let me just remove the duck from the green screen because it seems like it's stealing the spotlight and it will start distracting everybody here. So just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's been supporting this by liking, commenting, and subscribing. A big shout out to Alan for joining my first Patreon community meetup, which happened on the 14th of May. We had a really good time. He requested that we should start making the slot car using a Ferrari as a model. And that's our first Patreon project. And we just pool our resources together, learn from each other, and we model it together, and we just have a good time once in 2 weeks. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm going to be making a separate video dedicated to the Patreon community and the projects we're going to be looking at. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and join the Patreon community for as little as £2 per month. So let's get started. So in the previous video, we left off with this beautiful piece of surface over here that we created. And we basically looked at the fundamental way of doing so. So we create a sketch on any of the planes, we turn that sketch into 3D, create one of the edges, manipulate the edge, then we create the rest of the 3 edges, manipulate those edges, and then we use the surface workspace to patch them all together to create this complex, beautiful piece of surface that we see on the screen. Now I know right now this doesn't look like much, but I promise you, we do this slowly and consistently, it will start looking really pretty towards the end. All right, so in this video, we are going to be focusing on this surface over here. So just where you see my mouse, we're going to be focusing on that surface there. Now, I will be showing you a few more things related to this. And to do that, we need to first look at some reference points. So when you look at a car, right, when you look at this Mercedes, what makes you look at it and say, yep, that's a Mercedes? To me, someone who's not very specialized in cars, there are a few things I look at and identify a car. So the one basic one is that Mercedes logo right there. But if you remove that, what do you look at and think that this is a Mercedes? To me, again, I think these grills would be one of those areas, and the other would be the headlights. So if you combine the headlights and the grills, I would look at it and say, oh, that looks like a Mercedes to me. But if you covered that section for me, and I looked at the back of the car, I probably won't be able to tell much. So these two features, for me at least, are what make this Mercedes a distinct Mercedes, right? Now, if you look at the back side of the car and look at the headlights there, that would be another factor. But as for the front of the car, these two surfaces are what makes this Mercedes a Mercedes, at least to me, someone who's not very used to car models. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create that grill section over here, but we are only going to be creating the projection of it. So what do I mean by that? Let's first create it, and I will show you what I mean. So I'm going to create a new sketch on the front plane. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that line there. And I'm going to follow, maybe starting from... First, I'm going to put my mouse on the origin, and then I'm going to go up so that I know that I'm starting from the plane of symmetry. Okay, I'm just going to click over there. I'm going to draw a straight line there, 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 and finally, just making sure that we also land at the plane of symmetry. I'm just going to hover over that point we created, and you see this line being drawn. So I'll make sure we're still at the same, point, but just below vertically, right? Now I'm going to use my fillet tool to draw a fillet over there, from there to there, from there to there, right? And these are just basic sketching tools that I'm using. So just straight lines and some filleting tools, right? And what I've essentially done here is I've sort of created that projection of that grill. What I can do now is I can also offset this by selecting that and just dragging it down to somewhere over there, right? So why have I done this? You might have remembered from the previous video when we were dealing with splines, it can get a little bit tricky when we're creating these delicate curves such as the one that I've just created here. So if we wanted to end that surface where this blue line currently is, that would have been a little bit tricky to do. So I'm just going to make this go up a little bit. And you'll see now that that blue line is now encompassing that bottom section over there. So why have I done this? So let's finish the sketch. Now basically what I can do is I can go modify under the surface. I can click on split body. I can click on that body is the body to split. And I can use the splitting tool as that blue line over there, and I can press OK. So now what has happened is that one surface that we had has now turned into two different surfaces. So if I just click on this and press delete on my keyboard, you can see how beautifully this surface now matches that grill section there. Had we tried doing this manually while creating the surface itself, it would have been very, very tricky to do. If that doesn't make much sense, here's something you can try. So the sketch that we made a minute ago was made using straight lines, and then we added fillets to it. Try using the splines to create that same section there, and you'll see how difficult it would be to do that. So I'm just going to undo this right before I start splitting stuff away. I just want to make sure that this sketch exists just as a reference point. So it's okay if our surface goes under or beyond this sketch over here, so long as we can use this sketch to then start splitting the body and removing sections of the surface that we don't need. Now, we're going to open our sketch folder and we're going to look at the sketch that we just created. I'm going to double click inside that so that it'll let me rename it. And I'm just going to call this the grill sketch. Okay, and we're just going to let that stay there for now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is repeat the same process with the headlights. So I'm just going to create a new sketch on the front plane. And now I'm going to make that projection for the headlights. So I'm going to take my line tool and then I'm going to start sketching. It's okay if your initial sketch is rough. You can always go back in time and change it. And that's, again, one of the most powerful features of Fusion, that you can use the timeline to go back in time and adjust certain things. Right, so again, I'm just going to use the fillet tool to start rounding these edges off. So again, I'm not making these too exact right now, but obviously if you want to, feel free to do so. And obviously, the higher quality your blueprints are, the more detail you will be able to add. So that looks good to me. I can go ahead and finish the sketch here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, again, click on your sketch there, double click on the name so I can rename it. And I'm going to call this the headlight sketch. Perfect. And now I'm going to switch the sketch off right now. And now what we can do is we can now go ahead and create that surface over there. And you'll see why doing what we just did is going to make that so much easier to do. Okay. So if I go to my side view, you'll see that that is the surface that we're going to create. So that's that one over there, right? From the front, that is right over here. And from the top, that is right over here, right? So what we can do is we can actually, if we notice closely, that line over there, so that's the surface, that line over there is a line of continuity, which I call, I'm sure there must be a name for this for designers who actually design cars, but I'm just calling it for the line of continuity for now. And you can see that if I start my mouse there and I go backwards, right? That's where our surface ends, but that's not where our line ends, right? So if I just keep going backwards, you'll see that that line goes all the way till the back of the car, all the way till the back headlight over there. And that's what's actually making that continuity, which is causing that surface to look so smooth. So if we go to our car over here on Google, you'll see that's the line that I'm talking about, the one that I just showed you. So it's going all the way to the back of the car. So if we were to make these surfaces one by one by one, and this is what I used to do in the past as well, it used to cause the car to look decent, but if you went close up, it would be there would be a lot of mismatch between the continuity. So let's say we drew a spline from here to here, and we'd end the spline there, and then we create the surface, and then we drew another spline for the next surface from there to there. There would be a bit of a tangency problem between the intersection of those two splines. Now, if that's not making too much sense, that's okay. just follow what I'm doing and it'll start making a bit more sense to you. So let's go back to Fusion. I'm going to start from the right-hand side. So that continuity curve, which I've been talking about, starts from somewhere over here. Actually, it starts from there, right over there. And what we need to do right now is ignore this line. So just follow my mouse. We need to ignore this line for now, okay? So let's go to the side view. So let's go to the side view, create a sketch on the right plane, pick up your spline, and let's start from somewhere there, okay? And this is going to go all the way back till that back headlight over there. Okay, perfect. Now let's have a look at where these endpoints are from the top. Obviously, they're currently in the plane of symmetry, and that's not what we want. So we press M on our keyboard, and we'll just drag this line back over here, right? So let's go till there. And now we can start individually manipulating these points. I'm just going to pick that point, press M on my keyboard. I'm going to make sure it lines up to that point there, and do the same thing at the back. So that point there, press M on your keyboard, and just position it there. Now we can deal with the tangents. So remember, we drew this line from the right-hand side, so it makes sense if we want to start manipulating tangents, we start from the right-hand side. So press M on our keyboard, and just drag this up. Okay, and we can see that maybe that's going a bit too much on the top, so we're going to just keep adjusting our tangents till we like the shape. So that line should be there. Right, and remember, when you're dealing with the tangents and you want to activate the tangents, all you need to do is just click on this and make sure you select the endpoints on the tangent, so the green points over there, rather than click on the tangent itself. So again, click on the dot, press M on your keyboard, and that's how you'll be able to manipulate the tangents, right? Okay, so that looks good from the side. Let's see how it looks like from the top. And there's not much information we get from the top view. So let's see what we can do from the front view. So it looks like the front also isn't giving us much, so we'll have to deal with this from the top view. So there is a bit of information. So that information is right here. That's the line that we need to follow, I think. Right, so let's do that. So I'm going to pick that one there, press M on my keyboard, and I'm just going to match that over there. Press enter, and we're going to do the same thing for this one. Again, you can see that I accidentally clicked the tangent itself rather than the point on the tangent, and that's making me move the entire point. So I'm just going to press Control Z. Oops. And make sure you select the point over there, then press M on your keyboard, and just shift it slightly. So let's see how this is looking. That looks good from the top. Let's see how it's looking like from the front. I know from the front it doesn't make too much sense yet, but I promise it will. So now from the right-hand side, and that's looking really good as well. So I think that's a really good curve, and we can go ahead and press OK. So now you may be asking, well, aren't we making the front surface? Why did we just go ahead and create the whole thing? Again, just be patient and you'll find out. Now what we can do is, again, because we started the sketch on the right plane, we're going to go back to the right plane, create a new spline, and again, this is not going to let me snap here just yet. So we're going to pan a little bit, so zoom out, orbit a little bit, and now you can hook onto that right there, just ensuring that your 3D sketch is still selected, right? So we've done that, and now what we need to do is go all the way till there somewhere, okay? Remembering how we created that headlight sketch there, right? So switch that headlight sketch off, take this point, press M on your keyboard, and now we need to drag it till there somewhere, right? And again, it's okay that this line is not exactly following that too much, again, because we're going to end up splitting that surface towards the end of the videos, okay? So make sure that's there. Now also put your grill sketch on, and make sure that this point is a little bit more inside than that intersection there, right? So make sure that point is all over there. Again, press Fit Point Spline, go back to your right, orbit a little bit, and now we can go ahead and connect that point to that point there. Okay? So that looks good. Now what you want to do is, at least for this one over here, we want to try and match that line, and we want to make this line parallel to that. It does not have to be exact, but try your best to make it. So obviously you can see right here that we don't have our tangent handle activated. So all you need to do is just click on that green line there, right click on it, and then press activate tangent handle. Okay, now it's going to give us those 2 points. Click on one of the points, press M on your keyboard, and activate the tangent. Now you can play around with it if you want. So something like this. And again, repeat this process on the other point. So click on the green line there, right click on the green line, activate tangent handle, press on that dot there, press M on your keyboard, and now you can go ahead and start playing around with it. So again, it won't let us make this exactly parallel, but we can try to make it as close as possible. And this is to ensure that the rest of the curve, the rest of the surface is making sense. So we're going to repeat the process for this as well. So if we switch on our headlight sketch, we want to make sure that this line here, again, just activate tangent, is following a little bit, at least matching or trying to match that curve over there, right? Again, if this is not making much sense, try it out yourself and you'll see the problems you run into, and then start rewatching the video in bits and bits to try and see why what I'm doing makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so we've got one more section to complete, and that's that back section over there. So from there to there. And what we'll do is, for now, we'll just close that. So fit point spline, orbit a little bit, snap onto that previous surface we created, and then snap onto this new line we created, and just double press there. Press, go back to your right. And for now, let's just leave it like that. Actually, maybe I want to move this a little bit to the side there. Okay. And now, if you finish sketch, you know the process now. So just grill sketch invisible, headlight sketch invisible. And now we want to close the surface off. But you're going to start noticing a problem now. So if we go to our patch, which is what we used last time, so go to patch, make sure your enable chaining is off, and now start clicking on these edges one by one. So that sketch, that edge, that edge, that edge, and you'll see that it's not letting me select just that section over there. It's actually making me select the entire curve. So if I select the entire curve, it's not going to let me do anything. So how do we fix this? There's actually a very easy way of doing this. So press cancel. Okay, and we go back to our sketch by going into the timeline and just double clicking on the last sketch we made. And now what we can do is you can go to modify and break. And you'll see if I hover over this line over here, it's going to let me break that point right over there. And this is because there's another sketch that's going from, another edge that's going from that point to that point, and that point there intersects just over there. So if I click on that, you'll see what has happened is that one big line spline that we made previously is now turned into 2 separate lines. And this is a really neat feature under modify break. So now if we go ahead and press finish sketch, you'll see patch, make sure enable chaining is off. Now, if you start clicking on these edges one by one, voila, now you have a complete surface. Go ahead and press OK. And now if we come back to our front, again, if you wanted to, you can start taking these parts away. So if you wanted to modify split body and start taking that away, you can absolutely do that. I'm not going to do that yet. And this is, again, because it's going to be a little bit easier to start my surface from there and then start breaking it apart once we have the entire surface ready, right? So I'm going to hide these sketches, just make sure they're still okay. And we have 2 different surfaces now. Go ahead and press save on your keyboard. So now that we have these 2 surfaces ready, what we can now go ahead and do is work on that section over there. But I'm not going to do that in this video, otherwise this video will be extremely long. But I'll give you a starting point. You may still be wondering, well, why did we make the end of that again? So I'll give you a nice starting point. What you can do is you can just click on that section there, right click on it, press copy. Okay, now just go ahead and hide that sketch. Create a new sketch again. Make sure it's from the right plane. Okay, And now right click and press paste. See what just happened? We took an edge that we made in the previous sketch, we broke that sketch, copied that new edge that we created, pasted a brand new one into our current sketch. Now we can actually use this, add some more details around it, and then you start using the break feature again to create our individual surfaces. So I've given you a good starting point. Try this out yourself. And in the next video, what we'll do is we'll create that surface over there, as well as this surface over here. Now, I highly recommend you try doing this yourself first, and then next week, see if what we did was similar. If it wasn't, make sure you comment what the changes were. Take this as a homework, because you need to be extremely patient, extremely curious, and you need to try out so many different things to see what works for you and what doesn't. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, do consider subscribing to my Patreon. You'll be able to ask me questions twice a month. You can show me your designs, get some feedback, as well as join on the Patreon community projects as well. I'm going to be making a dedicated video for that, hopefully coming out this week, where you can watch all the benefits you get from the Patreon community. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in that video, as well as the video that will come out next week, which will be part 4 of this car modeling series. All right, guys, take care.